What's the greatest threat right now that Israel faces?
Iran. You want the three threats?
Give me the three threats.
Iran, Iran, Iran.
Israel and Iran were not always bitter rivals seeking one another's destruction. In fact, the arch-enemies once shared a covert but strategic alliance. Here's the history of relations between Iran and Israel. Following the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, Tehran and Tel Aviv found themselves aligned through mutual interests, curbing Soviet influence during the Cold War and countering the rising Arab nationalism movement spearheaded by Egypt. Although the cooperation was kept under wraps, Iranian oil flowed to Israel, evading Arab boycotts. And in return, Israel equipped Iran with arms, military training, and intelligence. This alliance came to an abrupt end, however, with the 1979 Iranian Revolution, which resulted in the overthrow of Tehran's Western-aligned Shah and the establishment of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Iran's new government identified Israel as a major enemy, closed the Israeli embassy in Tehran, and cut all official ties with Tel Aviv, marking the beginning of a decades-long conflict between the two nations. Although Iranian leaders were publicly calling for the destruction of the State of Israel, there were pauses in the animosity between both countries owing to mutual interests. And a few months after ties were severed, clandestine cooperation between Israel and Iran kicked off again. During the Iraq-Iran war, Tehran had its hands tied due to an arms embargo imposed by the US. Desperate for military support, it turned to Tel Aviv. But what did Israel have to gain from helping Iran? According to declassified CIA documents, Israel provided Iran with arms to prolong the Iran-Iraq conflict, weaken Baghdad, and potentially patch up ties with Tehran. From 1981 to 1983, Israel reportedly sold an estimated $500 million in arms to Iran each year, primarily paid for by oil shipments. During the same time, Iran forged a powerful alliance with the newly founded Lebanese group Hezbollah, united by their opposition to Israeli occupation and Western influence. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Tehran expanded its support to include Palestinian Islamic Jihad and later Hamas. Iran's ongoing financial and military support for these groups, despite periods of fallout, has amounted to hundreds of millions of dollars and is regarded by Israel as a threat to its security. In 1968, Iran signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, committing not to acquire nuclear weapons, while retaining the right to develop nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. The country had a nuclear enrichment program that was already underway with the full knowledge of the Western world. In fact, the United States was the first country to assist Tehran with its nuclear program, supplying Iran with a research reactor in 1967 under its Atoms for Peace program. However, following the 1979 Iranian Revolution and the subsequent 8-year war with Iraq, nuclear development stalled, only to resume in the early 1990s. In 2002, Western intelligence services and an Iranian opposition group revealed Iran's secret Natanz nuclear enrichment facility. While Iran insists its nuclear ambitions are purely peaceful, Israel considers them a direct existential threat. And since 1992, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly recycled the same rhetoric about Iran's nuclear capability, warning the world that Tehran is on the verge of building a nuclear weapon. The allegations have served as a decades-long excuse for Netanyahu to provoke the West against Iran.
By next spring, at most by next summer, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb.
And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
Tel Aviv's claims of an Iranian plan to develop an atomic bomb have provided it with the justification for its ongoing campaign of assassinations and covert operations targeting Iranian assets. In 2009, Israel escalated its lobbying efforts in the US to pressure Washington to take military action, portraying Iran's nuclear project as a global security threat.
The greatest threat facing the world today is the marriage between religious fundamentalism and the weapons of mass destruction. The most urgent challenge facing this body today is to prevent the tyrants of Tehran from acquiring nuclear weapons.
A year later, in June 2010, a digital virus called Stuxnet was found to have infected computers at Iran's Natanz nuclear facility. The digital worm, which disrupted and destroyed Iranian centrifuges, is widely believed to be the doing of the US and Israel. Between 2010 and 2012, 4 Iranian nuclear scientists were assassinated in operations widely attributed to Israel's intelligence service, Mossad. Starting in 2013, nuclear talks between Iran and 6 world powers gained momentum under the Obama administration. The negotiations aimed to curb Iran's nuclear capabilities in exchange for the lifting of sanctions. These efforts culminated in July 2015, when Iran signed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, agreeing to limit uranium enrichment and allow inspections in return for economic relief. In 2018, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claimed that Iran had covered up its nuclear program prior to signing the agreement. The US then withdrew from the deal under the Trump administration. By 2020, covert Israeli attacks on Iran's nuclear infrastructure had resumed in full force. October 7, 2023 marked a turning point for the arch foes. Israel is juggling the carpet bombing of Palestine's Gaza, attacks on Iranian-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon, and strikes on Yemen and Syria. Tensions escalated on April 1, 2024, when an Israeli airstrike on Iran's consulate in Damascus killed 16 people, including 2 senior Iranian generals. Iran retaliated with an unprecedented direct strike, launching more than 300 ballistic missiles and drones at Israel, though most were intercepted. Shortly after, a suspected Israeli attack struck Iranian air defense systems near Isfahan airport, followed by the assassination of senior Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran and Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon, a dramatic demonstration of Israel's deep reach in the region. On October 1, 2024, Iran launched a second direct assault on Israel. Weeks later, Israel carried out its first open strike inside Iran, targeting air defense installations and key components of its missile program. For years, the Israeli government has urged the United States to take military action against Iran, framing it as essential for global security. Over 4 decades of assassinations, proxy wars, and covert sabotage have now given way to direct confrontation.
בזמן הקרוב ביותר אתם תראו את מטוסי ישראל, את חיל האוויר של ישראל, הטייסים שלנו, מעל שמי טהרן. אנחנו נפגע בכל אתר, בכל מטרה של משטר האייתולות, ומה שהם הרגישו עד עכשיו הוא כאין וכאפס למה שהם ירגישו תחת נחת זרוענו בימים הקרובים.
In the early hours of June 13, 2025, just after US President Donald Trump warned of an imminent attack on Iran, Israel launched an unprovoked strike targeting the heart of the country's nuclear and military infrastructure, claiming the motivation behind the attacks was to prevent Tehran from building a nuclear weapon. Using warplanes and drones reportedly smuggled into the country in advance, the assault struck key facilities and killed more than a dozen top Iranian generals and scientists. Soon thereafter, Tel Aviv expanded its airstrikes, hitting targets in Iran's energy industry and in residential areas, as Iran retaliated with missile and drone attacks on Israel. On June 16th, Netanyahu went so far as to suggest that assassinating Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, would end the conflict.
رژیم صهیونیستی اشتباه بزرگی کرد، خطای بزرگی کرد، غلطی کرد و عواقب او رو بیچاره خواهد کرد به توفیق الهی.
What began as a quiet partnership between Tehran and Tel Aviv unraveled into one of the Middle East's most volatile and consequential rivalries. After 12 days of trading missile volleys, Tel Aviv and Tehran accepted a ceasefire proposal put forward by President Trump and mediated by Qatar. The clashes left at least 24 dead and over 1,000 wounded in Israel, while at least 974 people were killed and thousands more injured across Iran. Netanyahu declared that Israel had achieved all of its goals, claiming it had eliminated Iran's nuclear and missile threats, crippled its military command, and taken control of Tehran's skies. For now, the fighting appears to have been put on hold, but the decades-long conflict and underlying tensions remain unresolved.